I have decided to strip our wooden trash can. I've painted it 2 or 3 times. It is pine, but now I decided I want to strip it and stain it. So I'm using Stripwell. It's a natural stripper, so I can do this inside without being worried about toxic fumes. So with this stripper, you put it on, let it sit for 15 minutes, test it, see how the lift of the paint is going, and then if it's not lifting well enough, you put a second coat on there and let it sit. I'm still stripping all the layers of paint off of this wooden trash can. I think I've done 3 different sets, I wanted to say 3 different rounds of stripper. The stripper is working well, there's just so many coats of paint. So on this last, I think this is my last time, my last round, I'm getting off what I can, and then I found that if I take a washcloth, I have to get warm water on this, and rub it, it starts to come off. So I think with this round, after I scrape it down better, get that off a little bit, see how that does that. Hear that? There's still some chunks there, the thicker pieces that I need to get off. And some you can tell it's pretty much almost like the paint has stained the wood. It was raw wood when I put the first coat on, so we'll see what happens when I get to the sanding process. I'm going to do that and then basically wash off what I can and then let it dry well, and then I'll take it out to the garage and sand it. We have snow on the ground, so it's kind of a cold process. So I'm going to try to get as much off as possible before the sanding process. So I've softened up this layer of paint. And I'm just going to wipe it down. So see, it takes it off pretty good once you have it softened up. This is just a regular washcloth, Terry. I'm going to continue to wipe it down, and then I'll get it sanded, and hopefully what I think has stained the wood will come out. Winter projects in the garage. Got a couple of oil heaters here. First time I've used them. Got my Sorels and my sweats on. Doing a little sanding. I've done 4 rounds of stripper on our wooden trash can. You can see it was just plain pine when I got it, and then I painted it and repainted it and repainted it, and then decided I wanted it stained. I've had it several years, so we'll see how this comes out. This is sanded with 120 grit with my Makita. And now I'm going to start working on these other pieces. This is where it'll be a little bit more difficult. I may end up painting the inside again. And I'm going to use my DeWalt little square thing here for the edges where I can't get my Makita. I cannot tell you how excited I am that the sanding took off almost all of the leftover paint. You can see in here that there is still some. I didn't bother doing a whole lot down there, but none of my sanders would get in there. I didn't want to do that with just a sanding block And once you put this on, the only time you're going to see that, or we're going to see that, is if you lift it up and look inside. So I'm not concerned about that. I'm going to stain it as is. There are a few little areas that have a wee bit of color still on the ends. Also not concerned. So I'm getting ready to stain this with Provincial by Minwax. It's a water-based stain, so I can work in the house without all the fumes. And then I will be plugging all the holes with fresh little buttons, wooden buttons, and put it together. The trash can sits right next to a counter, and when we open it, actually when it gets opened too roughly, it creates this little divot. There you go, you can see it there. So that's a little damage to the wood. So I decided to cut, stain, and finish a piece of trim. I'm gonna glue that. I think wood glue will be all I need to keep that in place. It's very lightweight, very tiny. If it does end up falling off or not working, I'll just use my nail gun, put a couple of brads in there, but I don't think that's necessary. So I'm going to glue that on with some wood glue and then paint these hinges. I stripped them. They're kind of unique and pretty, but my handles in the kitchen are bronze with a little bit of copper, so I'm going to use some craft paint and paint those. I've got one of these painted. It's not so much bronze as a brown, shiny brown. You can see the original color. And now the brown. It has some shine. A little hard to hold these things while you paint them, but and I'm just painting it on with a little artist brush. Catching the edges, but you just put it on, cover it well, thin coat. I'll be going back over it to highlight a little bit with copper. What's nice about craft paint is that it's water-based, easy to use. Now that looks gold in there. And dries fast. And then I have copper, antique copper, I believe it is. I'm just going to use what's in the lid. Same brush. And go to the one that is already painted. And then just do a little bit of, let me wipe some of that off. Just a little bit of highlight to it. Like that. Here is my work area. I'm getting messier as the days go on, or go by. I have glued on this little strip of wood. Everything has 2 coats of Minwax Provincial water-based stain, and then 2 coats of Varathane, polyurethane. This that I got at Habitat that I've used for lots of projects already. I have covered the holes, the screw holes, with little wooden buttons. And then I had to repair, let's see, sorry to make you dizzy, had to repair it once with more screws. So I had these little flat, they're not the buttons, they're just flat pieces of wood that I stained and then glued on there. So a couple of spots where I couldn't get all of the paint out, so has a little bit of a uniqueness to it. And then I decided to go with copper for the hinges. I might change it, and for the screw heads I might change it, but I don't know. As I said, my hinges, hinges, knobs, and handles in the kitchen are bronze, but I think that'll look good. Just bronze with copper accent. So I think this will look good. I tried initially this brown, which is a bronze color, but it looked more gold when I put it on. So I just went over it with antique copper. These are just little craft paints. And I just used a small little brush. So once I get one more coat of sealer on the very top that goes here, then I'll attach the lid and we'll be done. You can see where I couldn't get all of that green out because my sanders didn't fit in there. But with the dark stain, it's not super noticeable, and it's covered all the time until you lift the lid with to put some trash in. When I originally got the trash can, as I said earlier, it was pine. And I ended up painting the outside, but leaving the inside just raw pine. And over the years, even though we use a trash bag, some liquid has gotten on the inside and it's been hard to clean up. So I decided this time, while I was staining the outside, that I would also stain the inside and put a coat of polyurethane. So now if something spills, it'll be easier to clean up. So here's a trash can where it's going to be in the kitchen. See, the stain is the same as around the doors and drawers and goes well with the floor. We normally just pick it up like this, but I found this at Habitat a couple weeks ago, and I decided to add a little knob here to pick it up that way, and it will clear the counter. I'll show you here when it's raised. So check that out just in case. So there we go. I'm going to drill a hole here so the bolt will fit in and the knob will screw on. For more information about this project as well as other DIY projects, head on over to my blog at myperpetualproject.com. Thanks for watching.